All right, welcome everyone to our Bike Walk Every Town webinar on getting involved in advocating for the Bike Walk Education in Schools Act. So I am Maggie Millen. I'm an advocacy manager at the Active Transportation Alliance, and Bike Walk Every Town is our suburban advocacy program where we provide support and training and advocacy tools to those interested in improving walking, biking, and transit in their communities. Uh, So, in the Active Transportation Alliance, we are a nonprofit. We serve the Chicagoland region and we advocate for walking, biking, public transit to create healthy, sustainable, equitable communities. So, welcome to the live webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can use the comment box if you happen to be on Skype, which looks like that little icon. Type in your question and we'll get to questions at the very end. And if anyone has experience working with their school district, we'd love to hear from you at the end as well. And we're recording this and we'll get this up on YouTube soon afterwards, so you can view it again, see the slides if you're on your phone today, and share it with others. So today we're going to be having Barb Cornu, our campaign organizer, and Melody Geraci, our deputy director, speaking about the Bike Walk Education in Schools Act. And Barb and I are sharing headphones, so I'll be transferring to her shortly, but we're going to be going over what is this act, what is the law now, what are some action steps that you can take to advocate for it at your local district, and what are some tips for interacting and presenting to your school board and working with your administrators. I'll be going over a presentation template that we created for you to make it easier for you if you're interested in presenting to your board. And then Melody will be reviewing the educational materials that we're recommending schools use to educate their students. So I'm going to hand this over to Barb right now, so one moment.
Good afternoon. This is Barb. As you all know, this is one of the bills passed by Active Trans in 2018, Bike Walk Education School Act. We're very excited about it. You can see there's a little snippet of what the act says, but the reason we worked on this is because the Illinois crash data has shown nearly 5 children are hit by people driving every day while walking or biking within 1 block of school. We all know that horrific fact. So we went to work and passed a bill in Springfield under the leadership of State Rep Sonia Harper and State Senator Maddie Hunter, and the bill was passed with bipartisan, veto-proof majorities and signed by Governor Rauner this summer. Thank you all for helping get this bill passed. You all filled out witness slips, you were involved, and we really appreciate the support. So, the next, what are we going to do? As you hopefully know, this bill amends the school code so that every kindergarten to 8th grade public school in Illinois is required to provide instruction, study, discussion of effective methods for the prevention and avoidance of traffic injuries related to biking and walking of our school children. Part of the responsibilities of the school administration is to comply with all new acts, and it's their job to make sure that the school boards are in compliance. So school boards required to do their own thing, and they get to determine how best to meet this requirement. So this is where we're going to be an ally here, a help. Why is advocacy needed? Since the bill was passed, the bill does not have a specific certain date, meaning there might not be a sense of urgency for when the plan should be adopted or not. It all depends on the school. We are very much keeping this about awareness building, very excited about building awareness with the schools about how we can protect the safety of our kids. We want to position ourselves as an ally, and we want to help or encourage the school district through the implementation process. Excuse me. So the most important part of this is that we should always talk about our kids, our children, your children, safety at school, on the local streets, the safety of all our children. That's what this is all about. Oh, can you just put them all up? We have a number of action steps for advocates. I'm going to put them all up because I'm just going to talk around them. We consulted with a very dedicated member of Active Trans. His name is Joe Sonnefeld, and he's the board president of Mount Prospect School District 57. So we had a good conversation with him after this bill was passed about how to encourage our folks to be advocates with schools. I've also served on a kindergarten to 8th grade school board back in 1999 to 2003 in suburban Cook. So we hope that this makes sense. So one of the first things you can do is familiarize yourself with the Act. We'll be sending out the Act. It's very small, it's very brief. We also have a form to have people sign up to be a school liaison. We would love to keep track of what schools are being covered, where we're not having any involvement, the north side, the west side, the south side, wherever. And we want to make sure our advocacy, has a geographical spread. The first thing to do is really to reach out to the office of the school district superintendent. And that's where you can find out how you can schedule a time to speak at the school board and make a short presentation. The presentation, which we have detailed examples of in a moment, it will be about what the Act is, what's required, why it's important. We have this PowerPoint template that we're going to provide to you that you'll be able to custom make. And it's mostly about safety, but it's also about encouraging the life skills of making our kids really comfortable in biking and walking, but safety is the key point here. One of the things you can ask the assistant of the superintendent is about the length of a time that is appropriate to make a presentation to the board. Also, if materials should be provided ahead of time. All school boards deliver these packets to their members the Friday before, the 4 days before the meeting, so it's always good to find out if we can include materials. Most important, or a very good point, would be to listen to review minutes of past board meetings, look at them online. A lot of schools put all of this online so you can watch them, attend board meetings, and maybe observe other groups that are presenting to boards. Just sort of as a fun point, most times the school boards have attendance and folks in visiting is when there's something going on that might be a little bit controversial. So this is a great time to be very well received, very positive, very exciting about worrying about the safety of our children, so you should be very well received. If you want to dig into recommending educational resources, which we're going to show you shortly, and you could consider scheduling a follow-up meeting with school administrators. It's usually the superintendent of curriculum who's actually doing the implementation. We've chatted about whether or not it would be important to reach out to the board of the PTA, to develop allies, to get them to understand what's happening, to learn about this act, and they might have some really good advice or might have done these kind of programs in different PTA programs. So the presentations that we're going to be presenting to you are meant to build awareness and encourage the school districts to follow through with implementation in a timely fashion. Okay, so tips. All the school districts should have received the Act from the Illinois Association of School Boards, supposedly in October-November timeframe. We have a goal here, but really you can reach out to the office of your superintendent as soon as you wish, really to learn about the process of how this may work for you in your school district, how you get on the agenda for a school board meeting. It would be great if you could present to a board in January, February, March. We here would love to encourage school boards to they're implementing this plan for the fall school year of 2019, but it's all based on the school. They may be able to do it sooner, they may be able to do it only just when the new school year starts, but that's what you need to find out and learn about. You can go next. In preparing to present to your board, you'll be seeing this script, but you'll review the script, make it to yourself. You can do these things with slides. You can go in there and chat. You can do anything that you want to do. But the most important thing is to know how much time you're allotted. So verify that with the secretary of the school board, of the superintendent. Share your passion about our children, the safety of our children. This is just such a great opportunity, and position yourself as an ally, as a friendly person in the neighborhood who's worried about your own kids, your grandkids, your neighborhood kids, etc. And here I'm going to transfer over to Maggie.
All right, thanks, Barb. I'm just going to go over the PowerPoint template that Barb spoke about that you can use to present to your school board, to your administrator. If you have a one-on-one conversation also, you can also use this presentation and the script. So it's an 11 slide presentation, and then we have a 3-minute script that you can use if you choose, and of course feel free to adjust and update the presentation as you see fit. And then we also have 11 resources that we're going to be going over with you that you could review if you wanted with your administrators. And Melody is going to be going over those in more detail because she's had a lot of experience working with those resources. So that photo there, that image, for those of you viewing the presentation right now, that's the script, and it's a very short 3-minute script, some suggestions on what you could say for each slide. And then also, I know some of you have already reached out to your school contacts and started conversations. So we as Barb mentioned, we do feel like presenting to the board is a really great way to just get some awareness, build some attention publicly about the importance of walking and biking safety and education. But of course, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's okay, and you could schedule some one-on-one meetings. All right, so this is the beginning of this presentation, or the PowerPoint template, and this would be the slide where you would introduce yourself, if you have any connection to the school, if you had a student there, or if you do have a student there, and then, tell them about, why you, or if you have a story, why you think this is important. So make it personal, if you have some story to share. And this is just the kind of the outline slide. So you'll be talking about, okay, what is this new law? Why is it important? What's required of the school district? And what are some resources that are available to teachers? And then here, you already saw this slide from when Barb was speaking about it, but this kind of is a brief overview. The law is all about educating K-8 students about biking, walking safety. And on the right side, that's the actual law. It's very short, the act. And we're creating we have a Google document or a Google folder for you that we'll send out, and it's a toolkit with different handouts that you can print and bring to this meeting or email to your contacts, and it includes the actual act, so you can see exactly what it says. And then, so Barb also mentioned this, so this is a slide where you'll just really be emphasizing, so what's the issue here? Why is this important for teachers to be teaching about walking and biking safety? And this statistic is kind of shocking, that 5 kids are hit by people driving every day in Illinois while they're walking or biking within 1 block of a school, which that seems unacceptable, and that's why it's so important that we're teaching kids how do they arm themselves with safety tips so they can stay safe in their community. And then also the health issue, obesity is tripling in the U.S., or it's tripled over the last 30 years. And then if you look at all the states, Illinois is not doing so well on our obesity ranking. We're ranked number 9 right now. So when you're presenting to the board, this slide, I think, is an important slide to really appeal to people's emotions about, like, why is this such a big problem? Because the board and the administrators, their priority is the safety of kids. So if you can emphasize that while you're speaking to them, that can go a long way. And then also some statistics about why biking and walking matters and why it's important for kids. And in school, those who get some physical activity before school, studies have shown that students test better, and in reading, writing, spelling, math, they're also getting their recommended 60 minutes or close to it. And it's potential that a school could save a lot of money by eliminating a bus route if a lot of children are walking and biking to school. And then also, it's not only about kids walking and biking to school, it's also about teaching them and promoting a healthy lifestyle, teaching them important life skills that they can use not only while they're in school, but also when they're out in the community and later on in their lives. So this slide, Barb went over the slide, but this is so you can explain what is required of them, and it's essentially that it's now law. They must adopt a plan, but they get to decide how to best meet the requirements. And because the law is very flexible, there are multiple resources available that you want to share with them, that they could share with their teachers. And we've got, so we, the Active Transportation Alliance, and the Illinois Association of School Boards, we've gathered 11 resources with quizzes, videos, lesson plans, workshops that schools can use. They're welcome to use any of it, and they're all available at that link right there, activetrans.org/resources/education. And in that Google folder that I spoke about earlier, we're including a PDF of all of those resources right in that Google Doc that you could print out and bring to the meeting if you wanted. And then this slide, you can just give them a little teaser of, okay, here are some examples of some resources. We've got 9 lesson plans that can be used in the classroom. We've got some activities for PE classes, 10-minute activities. And then this is the final slide where you would say, okay, what are your next steps as for the board, for the administrators, and it's for them to develop and adopt a plan. And as Barb mentioned, we were recommending that this plan is adopted no later than the fall of 2019. But they're welcome to do it earlier. This is where you could include your contact information to say, let me know if I can provide any more support. You're really wanting to show yourself as you're there to help, you're a resource, and if you're comfortable, you can offer setting up a follow-up meeting with the director of curriculum or whoever is the relevant person that would like more details about the resources, and then the school district should be sharing that plan with their teachers so that the kids can start learning about biking and walking safety. So I'm going to hand this over to Melody now, who's going to be going over all of the different educational resources that we've compiled and that are free. So Melody, let you take it over.
Great. Thanks, Maggie. Here I am. I'm Melody Geraci, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director at Active Transportation Alliance. But before I took on that title, I started originally with Active Trans more years ago than I'd rather admit at this point in my life, as the Safe Routes to School manager for the Federal Safe Routes to School program. So I've been in touch with the school side of trying to encourage and enable kids to walk and bike to school more safely for a number of years. So I'll hopefully share a little bit of perspective with you on that. Specifically today, related to the types of resources that you can recommend to a school district so that they can be compliant with this new law. One quick caveat, if we've learned anything over the years, I think it's that schools are overwhelmed. They are doing their best to educate our kids in most circumstances and take on all of the responsibilities that they have been mandated to provide for kids, to include, feeding them breakfast and allowing for recess and after-school activities and teaching them about health and a bunch of other things, and PE. So we recognize completely the challenge of saying, here's one more thing that you're now expected to do. So our approach this whole time has been that this is to make this as seamless and easy as possible, while also, advancing our mission of wanting kids to have this new tool in their toolbox about how to keep themselves safe in traffic safety situations. One other quick note, we also recognize that really the onus is on drivers to keep kids safe in these environments. This is not in any way to say that the onus is on the child. It's the child's fault if the child is in a dangerous situation or tragically something terrible happens. We recognize that there's a ton of driver education that needs to happen out there. There are resources for that. There have been advances in legislation on that front as well recently. So that's another side of the story. But in approaching this as a holistic issue, we're going to try and approach it from all different angles. So arming kids with the best knowledge possible in how to protect themselves is also an important piece. Okay, that said, let's start with pedestrian safety resources that you can recommend to the school district. Generally speaking, research has shown that developmentally, students are best positioned to start learning about bicycle safety around 2nd grade or around age 7 or 8. That certainly varies from student to student, but the research has shown that kids are not really cognitively or have the conceptual abilities to understand traffic, how a bicycle is a vehicle, how it interacts with traffic, speeds in particular. Kids are not great at anticipating speeds. Little kids in particular generally think that adults are looking out for them at all times, so they don't conceive that they have to also have a responsibility in a traffic environment. So, long story short, kindergarten or early childhood up through 1st or 2nd grade is usually the place where you want to focus mainly on pedestrian safety. I'm going to highlight 3 different pedestrian safety resources here, going from kind of low commitment to more intensive commitment. So the first resource is called Pedestrian Safer Journey. It was developed by the Pedestrian and Bicycle Information Center at the University of North Carolina. It's a very well-known, highly regarded research institution on highway safety and traffic safety. It was also developed for the Federal Highway Administration. So this is all the things that we're going to present to you today are very well vetted, government and personal level, nonprofit levels and advocacy levels all around. So Pedestrian Safer Journey is designed for starting with ages 5 all the way up through 18. So it does have some more mature materials about students once they kind of get behind the wheel and what their responsibilities are there. It has these are short, quick hits, videos, little follow-up questions, discussion items and topics. It's broken out by age group, younger kids, intermediate age, and then high school age. The videos are 5 minutes or less. Quizzes are about 10 questions. So this is a really easy thing for schools to do. It's very simple and it's really engaging. I'll have to tell you, I think they've done a really terrific job. It's one of my favorite resources. The next one is an actual curriculum. So this would be something, as Barb mentioned, to discuss with your director of curriculum at the school district level if they wanted to adopt it across all schools. It's a 5-lesson plan. It's called just simply Child Pedestrian Safety Curriculum. This one was developed also by another federal agency, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, which is solely tasked with improving safety and reducing death and injury on our roadways. So it's also very good. These are teacher administered sorts of things that would happen in a classroom setting. Each lesson plan is about 20 minutes, and it builds on these topics, starts with walking near traffic, then goes to the next level of complexity about crossing streets and what's an intersection and how do you cross there. It also includes parking lot safety and school bus safety, which are 2 areas where a significant number of these kinds of crashes actually happen when kids are trying to navigate themselves in and out of a big busy pick up and drop off zone, for example, around a school, or getting on or off the school bus. So those things are also very valuable, and the resource is available in Spanish. Walk Safe is a 3rd pedestrian safety curriculum. This was developed by the University of Miami and Florida's Medical Center. And this was the impetus for this was the medical center there, the trauma unit was seeing a lot of kids coming into the ER after being hit by cars, especially in kind of the lower income communities of color in the Miami area. So they were incentivized to do something. And this actually has some research to suggest that there's a correlation between the implementation of this curriculum across the school district in Miami-Dade and a decrease in, they actually saw a decrease in pedestrian crashes. So it's very highly regarded. This is for younger ages, kindergarten to 5th. It's got 3-lesson program, 3 days of lessons. The first one, and what's really great about this one is it gives kids an experiential component to the learning. We know very, very well, and any of us that have kids know that children learn best by doing, right? So sitting in classroom, being shown some visual aids and being talked to is one thing, but taking them out and putting them in kind of a simulated scenario. So they're out on the playground or this, in the school parking lot or the turnaround or something, and they're acting out, these behaviors, these safe behaviors. Very, very effective. And also has some creative elements available. Videos are available for the teachers so that they can learn how to administer the curriculum. All right, on to bicycle safety resources. Again, the general recommendation is starting about 2nd or 3rd grade and on up. Again, the law only pertains to kindergarten through 8th grade schools, so does not pertain to high school, but a lot of these resources are also very helpful for high school students. So Bicycle Safer Journey is the companion to Pedestrian Safer Journey, again, developed by the Pedestrian Bicycle Information Center for the Federal Highway Administration. Let me do a little pause here and note that all these links are going to be available throughout all of the materials that Maggie has mentioned that will be in the Google folder, but also on our website. There are live links on our website to all of these resources. So fear not that you maybe haven't been able to write quick enough and figure out where to find all these things. So again, Bicycle Safer Journey, it's the same sort of setup, specialized videos, discussion questions, quizzes, broken out into the same 3 age groups, and again, very light touch, very engaging, very easy, not a heavy lift at all for school districts, and also available in Spanish. I've watched most of these videos and I think they're really terrific. Phycology is a more intensive high school or middle to high school age bicycle curriculum. Again, this would be something to be formally adopted. The resource includes, mostly in classroom kind of lessons, activities, discussions, and there are ideas for PE teachers to integrate some more on-bike or physically active activities, and it's about 7 units long. This was developed by a nonprofit organization called Shape America, and it has a great deal of, it's gotten a great deal of buzz kind of in the advocacy community. Well worth checking out. Bike Safe, once again, this is another federally developed resource. It is solely for middle school age students, and it provides resources which is a little interesting for both parks and school districts, park districts and school districts. So, with the idea that a lot of kids who are going to perhaps after school programs or summer programs could benefit by this being run through a park district program. It includes training videos and for in-class lessons. This one also has an experiential option for on-bike. Once again, I don't think we can stress heavily enough how important it is to try and get kids on bikes and on foot and in kind of, either a faux traffic environment or a real traffic environment so that they can get a flavor for how to practice these skills. Today we're lucky to have, I believe, Ed Barsati from our friends at Ride Illinois on the phone. Ed is the genius, in part, behind the Bike Safety Quiz program. It's an online learning environment where students and adults of different varying levels of knowledge, so from beginner to experienced, can take these online quizzes. It's for a little bit older elementary and on up ages. The quizzes are catered to, again, various levels of learning, and it also includes a really great deal of emphasis on that driver component that we've been talking about. So if you haven't gone online and tested out these quizzes, you absolutely should. They're delightful. I got a couple of things wrong my first time through and went, oh, geez, I didn't know that one. So, and it also aligns quite well with the rules of the road, and it's very specific to Illinois. So that's a great thing because, you know, state to state, our traffic laws and vehicle codes vary. The other thing, and maybe Ed is on the line, could take any questions about this. Schools can receive up to $250 by having their students complete the quiz, so they're eligible for a little bit of prize money. There's a cycling skills clinic guide. This is, I believe, from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration again. This is for on-bike resources. So this is how to set up, you know, bike rodeos and other types of safety skill practice events. It's set up with, what's really nice about it is this planning matrix, and you see that that's on the screen right now. It shows, you know, low touch, medium touch, and heavy touch in terms of how many resources you have, what your capacity is at the school district to do this kind of thing. You know, if you have everyday PE, for example, and kids are, you know, PE teachers have plenty of room in their lesson plans to drop in special topics, maybe you could do all of these. Or if it's going to be a one-day bike rodeo, you know, limited resources, don't have a lot of time, don't have a lot of money, it also advises you on that, in addition to the number of students you're going to be having at any one time, from small groups to large groups. Active Transportation Alliance developed an on-bike safety curriculum resource called Kids on Wheels, our training manual. It's for 2nd to 4th graders, a little bit younger. It's experiential on-bike curriculum, 3 lessons long. And the way we have developed this, it's the first lesson, the kids are in a safe, enclosed, completely protected environment on a playground. The second lesson is taking kids maybe around the block on a sidewalk, if that's legal in your town, or in a lot of schools will stop traffic around the school perimeter during pickup and drop off times. If you could do that for a special event like this, you could take the kids on the road. And then an optional third lesson, which is taking maybe a little baby field trip down the street to the park with students, taking them on street. So it's also a mixed kind of format for different types of lesson, different types of learners, but all experiential, all with bikes. Finally, just a couple of resources that are combined pedestrian and bicycle together. These are things that Active Transportation Alliance has developed. So if you're really in a pinch and you need to really just kind of shoehorn something in for your school district, we have one that's called Line Lessons for the Classroom. So this would be done in homeroom or whatever the equivalent is for students. It's for, again, elementary ages. The lessons are between 30 and 60 minutes. Maybe it could be in language arts or PE once again. But they are developed around content areas. They do meet educational standards, but the standards are a little out of date. But it's something of a selling point for your school district as you're trying to make the case for why teachers should set aside academic time for this. It does list out the types of materials that are needed, the activity is described in depth, and there are ideas for taking this knowledge outside the classroom. The other resource is these short 10-minute activities for PE class. So kids are doing things like doing crosswalk guard tag and kind of integrating lessons with a theme around walking and biking into something that keeps them physically active and meets that criteria for PE for kids being having moderate to vigorous physical activity for a certain number of minutes every day. They're short, again, kindergarten through fifth, and both of these resources are available in Spanish. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Maggie.
Okay, thanks, Melody. That was a lot of really great info. So, and again, like everyone, you don't have to memorize all these resources. We just thought it might be interesting for you to hear about what's available, and if you want to dig more into them, you can. But we have here. I'm gonna get the presentation back real quick.
Hey, Maggie.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry to interrupt. It's Patrick Smith. I took myself off of mute. Can you remind me? I'm only on the phone. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing the shared screen. What was that last resource that has the PE class activities? What's the name of that one?
So that was an active transportation resource, and that was
awesome.
It's under the combined bike ped resource list.
Yeah. If quickly, Patrick, if you go to activetrans.org/resources/education, that last resource is 10-minute lessons for PE class is what it's called, and there will be a live link there for you to be able to download that directly. 10-minute lessons.
That's awesome.
10-minute lessons for PE class. Sure, great, all free.
Thanks. Because
yep.
my in District 220, the health group is meeting next week, I think, and they're specifically looking at integrating it into PE. So I will share that with them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Outstanding. Just one other quick note. Another selling point for this is it's a way for schools to meet their wellness policy requirements. So several years ago, federal mandate for schools to have a school wellness policy that addresses nutrition and physical activity. And if they're teaching bike walk education in schools, that's another way for them to meet that requirement.
Great.
Awesome. I'm sure they'll love that. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Maggie.
Oh yeah, no worries. So basically, we'll kind of get into. I know some of you had some questions here, but as advocates, the ask really is to share these resources with your school board administrators. You don't have to dig into all of the details. It's more just letting them know that these resources exist. And we're asking for those who are interested to present to your school board to bring some awareness to this new law, and be there to help support your board and administrators as needed. So let's look into some of the questions that people have, and then we can also open it up to any of you who have experience actually working with your school district, whether recently or in the past. So we have Dave Simmons is asking, do you find it more effective to start at the district level or at the individual school level? Or maybe each situation is unique. Mel, do you have any thoughts?
I do. I think obviously the most effective way is to go to the school district level, so that any decisions that are made or stuff it is a school district requirement, and any decisions that are made would go school district wide to all schools. However, as you mentioned, and you already seem to know this, Dave, you've got a lot of experience in this area. School districts are unique. Some school districts give their schools almost absolute autonomy over deciding what happens within their walls and what kinds of curriculum they're teaching and how that all works. Others are very top-down, and schools have virtually no independent decision-making ability. So some, in the city of Chicago, local school councils have a lot of sway. So it's going to depend. I would say try and determine, if you already have a sense, try and determine where your in is. As Patrick mentioned, maybe there's a committee that meets. Maybe that's the way to introduce it. If the PTA has a lot of pull with the school district, try that. But generally speaking, the best idea would be to start at the school district level, if that makes sense for your school, for your area.
Okay, thanks, Mel. And Ed Bersati. So from Ride, Illinois. He wrote, apparently that $250 grant for elementary schools, that's elapsed, but there is a new grant this year giving high school students $2 per driver education student who uses the quiz. Ed, if you're there and you want to speak any more about that, we're happy to open it up to you. But I love that quiz too. Yeah, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, can you hear me, Maggie?
Yeah.
So the $2 per student actually goes to the high school, not to the student. And we are receiving applications right now. So if anyone has a good connection with their driver's ed department or no instructors or no principals at your high schools, it's a perfect time to ask for it. And we haven't turned anyone down yet. So it should be on our website.
Great. And is it up to a certain amount that they can earn?
Sorry?
Or did you hear me?
Could you repeat that?
Oh yeah.
No.
Is there a max of like number of students that can do this?
Yeah. So we're tentatively having a maximum of $1,000 per high school. But if we have extra grant money left over, then those with more than 500 students can make more than that.
Oh, great. That's great. And then Melissa has a question or a comment. Maybe I haven't read it. She says, in Park Ridge and likely in other communities, we have elections in April that will probably significantly change the composition of our school board. It may be more effective for some advocates to make the presentation to the board in May or June. And we actually, that's a really interesting point you bring up, because we actually spoke to, Barb mentioned we spoke to a board president, and he was emphasizing that it would be great to have advocates bring this to the attention of the board as soon as possible. And he actually said don't do it later than March. And yes, you're right that there could be some turnover, but I think he was saying not everyone would be turning over. So it's important for, I guess, the school boards to get working on this. It's the administrators actually would work on it and integrating this into their curriculum, and giving them, I guess, enough time to do that. So they wouldn't be, that school and curriculum director would not be the one that would be reelected.
Right. These are excellent. Go ahead. Sorry,
this is Patrick. Can I address this question in part and go back to Dave's question earlier about who to approach? Mm-hmm. I've done all of this too. I suspect others have as well. I'd love to hear from other people too about this, because my experience is limited to District 220 where I live. Last week at a board meeting for District 220, guns in schools came up. Apparently there was a vote statewide where all the school districts voted whether or not to override Springfield's denial of having guns in schools. I'll bring this to biking and pedestrians in just a moment. There was an uproar in town about that. The board, at the board meeting last week, explained why they voted, how they voted. It had very little to actually do with District 220 and was trying to help other districts. Basically, it was trying to get Big Brother Springfield out of control, local control at the district level. That's what they wanted. And I get it, right? You want state control versus federal control. So I get that point. The reason this is relevant, because for us, there is an uproar about those specific board members, 4 of them, who voted basically to put guns in schools. People are not happy about that. Do I think that those 4 people might get ousted? Maybe. So there could be some turnover. But generally speaking, in my district at least, there has not been significant turnover at the board level. So board members are not necessarily turning over. Maybe I forget what community it was that this question came from. Maybe in your community there is something bigger that's happening and there may be some board turnover. Going back to Dave's question, though, and to Maggie, to a point that you were just making, I immediately, as soon as this bill passed, it passed on the 2 houses on May 31st, my wife's birthday. It was then signed on August 25th by the governor. On May like June 1st or maybe the 31st of May, I reached out to the school district, I reached out to the superintendent, and to the whole board. There's a link you can do that from District 220. So I reached out to all of them. The superintendent is the only one who responded back. And he said, thanks for letting us know. We're going to wait till it's signed until we do something. August 25th, it's signed. I email them all again and say, okay, it was signed. What are we going to do? Long story short, it's already long, I know, sorry, but shorter, I'll make it shorter. The health group is the one in District 220 who is focusing on this. It's the health committee. I've now been in touch with the health committee via email and phone multiple times. I'm sending them a note now about the 10-minute lessons for PE classes because that's really important for their meeting next week. Find out through the superintendent, if you can, which committee might focus on this. Health is one of the ones. Maybe it's PE. Maybe there's something specific around PE. But there is going to be a committee, and that's why I agree. This is all happening now. These committees are meeting right now in order to get this for next school year. They're not doing anything this school year. They're doing this all for next school year. So the board itself isn't going to necessarily do anything other than bring leadership to this issue. So if there's a friend on the board, they're the people who will help to push it. But if we don't have a friend on the board, then we need to make those inroads maybe at the school level, but really it's at the district level with the committee. Health is a good one, to bring this forward for all the right reasons that we all know about. So it's the district level to that question, is it district versus school? Now, I've been making inroads at schools over the years, but it's going to be at the district level that we can make a bigger impact. And yes, doing a push around candidacy in the winter and early spring is important, but don't wait. Do it now. Start now and continue the effort in the spring specific to elections where it makes the most sense based on how voting may go in your particular district. So that's been my experience, and I wanted to share that because it's relevant to two of the questions that came up.
Yeah, no, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, so like I get one thing to remember, like this is law, so it's great. It's already passed. We don't have to worry about that. It's just some schools will take this up right away, and others might need a little more encouraging. So and a little more guidance along the way. So that's as advocates, that's what we're hoping you can just be there for positive support for them. So let's see, there was another question here, Jeff. So he says, though another interesting idea I can offer is that I just emailed a school board candidate I know who had said he is into bike advocacy and suggested that he made this presentation to the school board in advance of the election. So I suppose that could be an option too.
Yeah, this is Melody. I think that looking for a champion anywhere within that, school district universe. It may be an administrator, it may be a school board member, it may be a teacher, quite honestly, who helps you kind of go to those meetings, may be willing to sit next to you and say, yeah, this is doable. We can handle this. Here are different ideas for ways to integrate this new requirement into what we're already doing. Right. So allies can be found everywhere. And again, positioning yourself as bringing resources to the table, not just making a demand. Right. I think that's kind of advocacy 101. And most folks, I'm sure, already know that and have had lots of experience with it.
Yeah. Thanks, Mel. Does anyone else have any other questions about this? So feel free you can unmute yourself or you could type something in the conversation. And just so you know, after the presentation, we'll work on getting this presentation, this webinar up on YouTube, and then I will send around to anyone who registered for the webinar and anyone who's part of Bike Walk Every Town, I'll send around this toolkit that we've developed where we've got this presentation that you can modify as you wish. We've got the script. We've got links to all of the resources. We've got a PDF with the language of the act. And then actually Bike Palatine, they recently sent a letter to their director of curriculum, and they've got into a conversation with them. And so Ralph from Palatine, he he's wanted to share that letter, so that will be in the that toolkit as well. And if anyone ends up writing a letter themselves, feel free to add that to the Google folder just to provide other advocates with examples. And then also we have this Google form that just basically, if you want to be the one that presents to your board or interacts with your board or administrators in some way, we'd love to have you list your name there, your contact information, so you can all be in touch if you want to share best practices, and also so we know what school districts are being reached. And we'd love to hear, what happens and what kind of reaction you guys get.
Maggie, this is Ralph from the Bike Peloton
Hey,
Club.
Ralph. Yeah.
I just have 2 cents to add, and that is our district has been, especially our PTAs, have been very open to the Bike Walk to School Day, which is a national event in May, I think first Wednesday in May. And we've had some mileage now with several of our schools participating. And when somebody mentioned, getting the PTAs involved, we know that some of our school PTAs have their own health committee or a health person that directs some of their local school funds to different activities in the school. And I think that would also be a good, starting point for some people just to get some, local discussion going among their parents.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks, Ralph. All right, if anyone else, give you another minute to add a comment, but otherwise we can wrap this up. Those are our contact info in the presentation there for Melody, Barb, and myself. And then again, that if you wanted to go online right now, the website with all the resources, it's activetrans.org/resources/education. And I will be following up shortly with an email. So thanks everyone for joining.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I do want to get in unmuted. Okay.
Yeah. Who is this?
This is Todd Nelson out in Woodstock.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that somehow I don't want to seem like it's getting too far ahead of the point of the program, but to emphasize bicycling's connection with driver education and skills development. The kids can learn the rules of the road and many driving skills through bicycling, traffic cycling education at an earlier age to make them better drivers. Traffic cycling should be developed as a prerequisite to driver's ed. I call it teaching roadway citizenship.
That's a great way to frame it, and you're exactly right. That is a good selling point. It's an enhancement or a prelude or a prerequisite, for kids in the earlier grades for leading up to driver education. I think Ed probably has some additional perspectives on that. One thing we're finding, though, is that the high schools are, as they get more and more pinched for money, are starting to drop the behind the wheel part, at least, of driver's education. So this could, again, be another argument for, hey, here's a way to, kind of fill that void a little bit. It's not the same thing, obviously, but if you're not able to provide that for your students anymore, this is a good way to start it up. And again, high school districts are separate from elementary and primary school districts. So those are 2 different audiences you'll be working with. But yeah, great ideas.
Yeah, and Ed Barsati just wrote it, and he said, "Agree, Todd. The ex-head of the Drivers Association said his best students were trained in bike safety." So there you go. So great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your ideas, and definitely keep the ideas coming. If you have some suggestions, we'll share them around. So yeah, again, thank you, Mel and Barb, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great call.